guys, it's Natalie and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be filming a wrap-up video slash recent reads video, and I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read over the course of this fall of 2022. So September, October, and November. I have quite a few books to talk about, so let's get into it. I know this is not my usual filming setup. It's not my bookshelf or my bed today. And that's because my sheets are in the laundry, so you guys get a nice lovely view of my gallery wall and my makeup vanity. Yeah, it's a little change of scenery, but I kind of think I like it, so let's get into it. Okay, so kicking off, the first book I read this fall is Beyond the Black Door by A.M. Strickland. This is a young adult fantasy book that follows our main character who has the ability to enter people's souls via their dreams. And all her life, her mother tells her to never go into this one door in the dream realm, and it's a black door. Naturally, being a curious teenage girl, she goes through the black door. After going through the black door, she stumbles upon something or someone quite dark and mischievous in nature. So I ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. I wasn't quite sure how I was feeling about a certain romance that happened in this book. I really liked that there was some asexuality rep in this book because you don't see that often in books, so I think it was really nice to see that represented here. So overall, this book was really atmospheric. It had great representation. It's just a really good, solid YA fantasy. The only thing that was stopping me from giving it a 5-star rating was that it felt like there was something kind of missing, and I didn't love one of the romances like I said before. So yeah, like I said, gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed it. Highly recommend it. So up next, I have one of my new personal favorites, and that is The Vine Witch by Luann G. Smith. I honestly can't really remember where I ever heard about this book, so I was kind of hesitant going into it because I had like no hype to go off of, no recommendation to go off of, so I kind of just went into this really liking the cover and liking that it was witchy. So this book opens with our main character who is getting broken from a curse that was put on her where she was literally turned into a frog. So this book just kicks off on a very interesting start. After the spell is broken, she realizes how much time has passed and how much things have changed at Chateau Renard, the vineyard where she used to live and work. Not only that, but her magic as a witch has dwindled, and she's hell-bent on getting revenge on whoever put a curse on her. So she's kind of on a journey to get revenge at this point. Like I said, I had nothing, like really no expectations going into this book, so I was really pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed it. After I read Practical Magic for the first time last year, I honestly felt like I would never find such a good, classic, heartwarming, cozy, witchy book ever again, and I gotta say, this book kind of filled the hole that Practical Magic left behind. And I know that's like a really big thing to say because Practical Magic is such a popular book that so many people love, but this book just has so many elements that I love in a book. I love that this takes place on a dreary vineyard. I love that there was a little bit of romance in here. I loved that this book set up perfectly for the next two in the series, which I personally can't wait to read. Overall, I really loved this book. It's so atmospheric, beautiful writing, lovable characters, great revenge plot. Overall, this is such a good book. This one's definitely up there for me. Highly recommend. So the next book I read is Cinderella is Dead by Kalynn Bayron. So this is a young adult fantasy book, and it follows our main character Sophia, and she lives in the world that is 200 years after Cinderella has died. So in Sophia's world, the Cinderella story is essentially like a Bible. Every year, young girls are sent to this ball at the kingdom ran by a tyrannical ruler, and they are basically auctioned off to be married. But our main character, Sophia, is queer and she's a rebel and she wants to kind of dismantle the patriarchy. So this book was not quite what I was expecting when I went into it. I didn't realize it was going to be such like a gung-ho feminist dismantle the patriarchy novel. There's not anything wrong with that in books, obviously, but I just didn't really like love the way it was portrayed here. I found that the main character, Sophia, lacked a little bit of character depth, and I couldn't really see why she was on this like war path, or like why it was her who started this rebellion. And I guess you could say that she was motivated by the fact that she was queer and she couldn't be with the girl she wanted to be with. But even then, I felt no like chemistry or romance between her and this girl who she supposedly loved and was head over heels for. So for me, I guess the plot of this book was more tell and less show. I just felt like I couldn't really understand like the reasonings for certain things that were happening, and I wasn't fully convinced of anything that was happening. I also just kind of felt like there was like a missed opportunity here in terms of world building. This book takes place in the world where Cinderella lived, and I feel like the author was just like, yeah, this is where Cinderella lived. I just feel like it could have been a little bit more fleshed out in my opinion. Overall, I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. It wasn't amazing, but it wasn't horrible either. It's trying to have a really good message about like not taking tyrannical bullshit, which I completely understand, but the way that the book went about it just, I guess, wasn't for my taste. So yeah, overall, like I said, 3 out of 5 stars. I can't say I recommend or unrecommend it. I mean, it was just okay for me, but yeah. So up next, I read The House of Hades by Rick Riordan. This is a middle grade / YA fantasy that is the 4th installment in the Heroes of Olympus series, and if you guys didn't know, this is the series that follows after the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series. I can't talk too much about what goes on in this book, obviously, because it is the 4th installment in the series, but I can tell you I did really enjoy this book, and it's really good, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. For me personally, Rick Riordan never misses. I didn't grow up on Harry Potter, I grew up on Percy Jackson, so this stuff is like my bread and butter. Rick Riordan's books are a perfect mix of childhood nostalgia, absolute ridiculousness, Greek mythology, very atmospheric and funny writing and banter, and just overall like good, warm, fuzzy feelings. Oh, and of course, the power of friendship. Obviously. But yeah, like I said, gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely 100% recommend this series. It's so much fun, and it's definitely filling like a hole in my heart that the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series left behind. So yeah. So up next, I read a book that was a little bit disappointing for me, and that is Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper. I knew nothing going into this book. I honestly had not heard anybody talk about this. I went on a Goodreads list of like witchy books that were coming out, and this book was on it, and I really liked the cover, and I didn't recognize the author name, so I was like, ooh, something new. But anyways, let's get into what this book is actually about. So this book follows our main character, Emmy Harlow, who is a small town witch who has moved away from her completely witchy, small, cozy hometown to Chicago to be a businesswoman. I know it kind of sounds like a Hallmark movie, but I promise it's not. Well, maybe kind of, but like witchy. Emmy Harlow left her small town a long time ago in search of something greater, something better, something different, and she returns back to her hometown, I believe after like 9 years or something like that, because there is this huge tournament that is held in her town between the 4 founding families of the town, and they basically do different trials and things like that to see which family will kind of reign supreme until the next tournament. So overall, I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. I think it was alright. I don't think it was great. Don't think it was horrible. Pretty middle of the road for me. So I liked that this book took place in a small town setting. I'm from a small town myself, so love all the vibes. I absolutely love witchy books, as you guys know. And I like a little bit of revenge in a book, and this book has that. I didn't mention it before, but there is a guy back in the hometown named Gareth Blackmore, and he's also competing in the Arbiter trial, and he had a really bad breakup with Emmy, which is kind of one of the reasons why she left Thistle Grove. So there is like a little bit of like resentment and revenge plot involved, but that's all I'm gonna say. I also don't know if my taste in reading has changed, or like if it was just the writing of this book, but for some reason, I just didn't really like the trial aspect. There was, I feel, too much of the story that was devoted to this trial, which I honestly didn't care a lot about. Being a drama queen, I was more invested in the revenge plot against Gareth Blackmore. That could very well be a toxic trait. like I said, gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. It was a little bit disappointing for me because as someone who loves witchy books and I need them to be perfect, this book just fell a little short for me. It wasn't horrible, it just wasn't fantastic, and I would say I recommend it. It's like a pretty okay read, and it's witchy and it's queer. So up next I have Long Live the Pumpkin Queen by Shea Ernshaw. And if you guys didn't know, Shea Ernshaw is one of my favorite authors of all time. She's like in my top 5. Love her writing. So I was super ecstatic to find out that she was writing a basically sequel to The Nightmare Before Christmas, and it's from the perspective of Sally. I also love Nightmare Before Christmas. I watch it every Halloween and every Christmas, and of course I love Sally. She is one of my favorite characters. So like I said, this book takes place after basically the events of The Nightmare Before Christmas, and it's kind of a sequel through Sally's perspective after she gets married to Jack and kind of adjusting to her new life as the Pumpkin Queen. So overall I gave this book 4/4.5 out of 5 stars. I loved everything about this book. I loved the concept, I loved the perspective of Sally, I loved learning about her backstory and kind of her struggles, because I feel like she didn't get a lot of character development in the movie, so I was really happy to get to know her better through this book. And naturally, I just love Shea Ernshaw's writing. It's so atmospheric and beautiful, and you feel like you're really there. And so I kind of feel like it was kind of a big task for her to write about Halloween Town, but I think she did it so perfectly. I absolutely loved it. This book was, like I said, almost a perfect 5 out of 5 for me. I can't really say exactly what was stopping me from giving it a full 5 out of 5 stars, but I know that when I was thinking of rating it, there was something in my brain that was stopping me from rating it a full 5 out of 5 stars. And I hate to not give this a full 5 stars because I've given every Shea Ernshaw book I've read a full 5 stars. But yeah, overall, this is a fantastic book. Absolutely loved it, blew me away. I had a really good time reading it. I read it in a really short amount of time because it was just super good. So if you love Nightmare Before Christmas and you want some more content from that universe, highly recommend this book. So up next, I was really feeling a thriller, so I went ahead and picked up this one that I had on my shelf, and that is Final Girls by Riley Sager. This is my second book by Riley Sager. The first one I read was Lock Every Door, which I really enjoyed, and I think I can say the same for this one as well. So this book is an adult thriller, and it follows our main character Quincy, who is the sole survivor of a massacre. And she's kind of moved on with her life. She's a baker slash blogger now. And everything in her life seems to be going well until another final girl shows up on her doorstep. Through the media and the press, Quincy was kind of grouped together with these 2 other sole survivors of massacres, and they were known as the Final Girls. And then one of these final girls, Sam, shows up on her doorstep and tells Quincy that the other final girl has been murdered. So Sam is very rough around the edges. She's very edgy, she's a little bit pushy, she's got bad habits, and her presence in Quincy's life threatens to uproot everything that she's worked for. And Sam certainly makes Quincy question things about her own story and her own life. So overall, I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I think that the concept of a final girls kind of group was really interesting to read about, but I can't say that this book really like reinvented the wheel in terms of like thrillers, I guess. I still think this was like a great solid read. I just feel like it was missing a little bit of pizzazz for me, but also it could be that I just really don't like reading about true crime kind of thing. I know this is fiction obviously, but in terms of real life true crime and real life massacres, I don't really like hearing about them. It's kind of upsetting to me. But that being said, I still really enjoyed this book. I think it was a solid thriller. It was exactly what I was looking for while I was feeling reading one. So like I said, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, would recommend. So the next book is a book that I have DNF'd twice, and this is me announcing my second DNF of this book, and that is Doll Bones by Holly Black. So this is a middle grade fiction spooky story, and it follows this group of kids who play with this doll that is like a bone china doll that's like an antique, but they find out some things about the doll that lead them on this adventure to set a spirit free. So this is kind of like a Goosebumps style ghost story. Normally I can't find much to dislike about middle grade, but this book really seriously bored me, and I don't know if it was like the writing style or the fact that I couldn't relate to the age level, which has really never been a problem for me because I can enjoy any book regardless of the age level. But something about this book just like wasn't doing it for me. Maybe I had too high of expectations because it's a Holly Black book, and Holly Black, as you guys probably know, wrote the Cruel Prince trilogy. Also, this book has a Newbery Honor Award. But yeah, this is getting added to my DNF list. This is the second book that I've DNF'd this year in 2022, which is honestly record low numbers for me, and I wasn't expecting to DNF any books this year. But I DNF'd this last year and kind of wanted to see if I could retry getting into it this year, and it just didn't work out, and that's okay. I will likely be donating this book to the little free library that I have at work because I know tons of kids come in and ransack that place, and I know a kid would love to have this book. So up next I have The Desolations of Devil's Acre by Ransom Riggs, and if you guys know anything about me, you might know that Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series is one of my favorites. It's the series that got me back into reading after not reading for probably like a decade, so it has a special little place in my heart. This is the 6th and final installment in this series, and I have mixed feelings. So I can't tell you too much what this book is about because, like I said, it is the last book in the whole series. But I ended up giving it 3/3.5 out of 5 stars. This is the lowest rated book that I've read in the series, and it is also one of the longest. I think it's longer than Map of Days, which is the 4th book. So I'm gonna tell you guys my honest opinion about this series, and it's that it should have ended at a 3-book series. I appreciate Ransom Riggs for trying to extend the story, get that bag, have a 6-book series, rival Harry Potter and Percy Jackson, right? I'm all for that. But I don't feel I don't know, I can't tell if I don't feel that it was necessary, because I don't think it was, because the 3rd book ended perfectly, or if I just feel that maybe the last 3 books weren't done in the best way possible. I just felt like this book was kind of regurgitating some of the same plot that happened in the previous couple books, and it felt like it was taking a really long time to progress. Like, it was really just dragging it out. So yeah, I'm kind of sad to give this book a 3.5 star rating because, like I said, I absolutely love this series. I love the concept of it. I love the historical aspects. I love the cast of characters, everything about it. But like I said, I do think it should have ended at a 3-book series because the last 3 books really just didn't really do it for me. But the series still has a big place in my heart, and I will always love it. And I can still confidently say I still recommend the series, but maybe just stop at the 3rd book. So the final book that I read during this lovely fall season of 2022 is Hungry Hearts, edited by Elsie Chapman and Carolyn Tung Richmond. This is a YA anthology of little stories that take place in this town called Hungry Heart Row that's known for food, and all of the stories kind of talk about or center around people being connected through food. So overall, I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. I think this was really good to read during the Thanksgiving time of year because, you know, it is a holiday that's centered around food and being with your family. So I think this book was perfect to read during that time. However, I didn't love all of the stories in this book, but I will tell you which ones I really loved. So I really loved The Grand Ishq Adventure by Sandhya Menon, and Sandhya Menon is one of my favorite YA authors, so naturally I loved that one. I really liked A Bountiful Film by S.K. Ali, and S.K. Ali is another of my favorite YA authors, so I really enjoyed her. I also really liked Side Work by Sarah Farazan. So yeah, I would say I do recommend this one. Those are the 10 books that I read over the course of fall of 2022 in September, October, and November. I'm really surprised I read as many books as I did because normally during a 3-month season I read about 5 books, so I read about double what I normally do, which is really surprising considering I was hospitalized in November and I had a friend come to visit in October and I just had a lot going on. So I'm really surprised I read as much as I did. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Leave a like and subscribe down below, and leave a comment and let me know a book that you've read recently and what you thought about it. Let's just chat in the comments. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day. Bye! bye!